Water.
Same.
Got my honey, which is in place of a cough drop with honey.
Nice. Yeah, you do sound a little raspy still.
Got my inhaler.
Oh, shit. They got you all set up.
Yeah.
How are you feeling, though?
Not good.
Tired,
not
worn
good.
out? No? Damn, it's been a week.
Yeah, it's been a full week. So we recorded a week ago.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when it was starting to get bad. That night is when it started. It was already kind of, I wasn't feeling good.
Right.
And then that night it started getting even worse.
Shit.
And I don't think they know what's wrong with me.
No, just some sort of upper respiratory issue.
Something. So I say they. I went to the doctor. So at first, there was one night last week, which would have been, I guess it would have been Tuesday night, I think. Like I guess Wednesday morning, like at 3 o'clock in the morning, I almost called an ambulance to take me to the emergency room because I couldn't breathe. I was having a coughing attack and I couldn't catch my breath. And that in turn, it turned into a panic attack at the same time. So even I couldn't catch my breath even more. So I had the numbers pressed. I had 911 pressed on my phone, waiting for me to just hit that green button. I was able to calm myself down because as somebody who has had numerous panic attacks before, I could recognize that was at least part of what was happening there. There was the issue with the cough. But it was because I was like asleep, and I haven't got hardly any sleep in the last week. But I'd finally fallen asleep, and I woke up coughing, like something I guess got caught up or something. So I woke up coughing, and it just triggered that panic attack for me. And I was able to calm down and not have to call an ambulance. Which I was thankful for, just because that's expensive. And I hate that that's something that even when I was in the middle of that coughing, I was thinking about. My life was flashing before my eyes, Mikey, and all I could think about was, can I afford this?
That's so insane.
Man, yeah. So, but I was able to get past that. I eventually went to urgent care. And I said, all right, here's what we're going to do is we're going to test you for COVID-19.
Right.
And we're going to do an x-ray on your chest because they could hear that I had something going on in my chest, you know.
Yeah.
She didn't even need to get the stethoscope out for that. She was like, no, I can hear it as you're breathing. Yeah. So, so they did an x-ray on my chest, tested me for COVID-19. They also saw she was digging in my nose and my ears and everything. I have a sinus infection. So what she said is what we're going to do is we're going to do this x-ray, do this test. I'm going to give you some antibiotics for this sinus infection. They gave me an inhaler, which this has helped so much. So they gave me an inhaler to help with just like in general breathing. What was it? What was the third thing that they gave me? Like Flonase or something. One of those like steroid nose sprays. And so I take the COVID test. It won't come back for another 24 hours. I take the x-ray. Doctor comes back with the x-ray and they say, this is weird. And I was like, fuck.
Shit.
You never want to hear that whenever you get an x-ray done. You never want to hear a doctor say, this is weird.
I could write a paper on this.
Yeah, seriously. So she said, based on your symptoms, I don't think that you have COVID. I really don't. We're going to give you we gave you the test just because COVID's going around, but like you've been vaccinated against COVID, and some of the things that you're telling me, this doesn't sound really like COVID. What I think it is sinus infection, something I don't know. But when I got the x-ray back, she says, your lungs there's something in your lungs that's not, you don't have pneumonia. So it's not, she said, it's not a liquid or not a fluid or something in your lungs, but she said, we see something in your lungs. And it kind of looks like COVID, but it also kind of doesn't. So I'll be curious to see what happens whenever we get the COVID test back.
Huh.
I don't like that. I don't like the idea.
You still don't have the results back?
I got the results back. It's COVID negative, which is on one side is good. I don't have COVID-19. People are being hospitalized every day for that. They're dying every day of that. But that also means there's no explanation for what's in my chest right now. So their best answer to that was, well, take these antibiotics and let's see if it gets better. I've been taking these antibiotics for 4 days now.
Yeah.
It's not that much better. So
how many more days worth of the antibiotics do you have?
It's a week's worth. So I'm halfway through.
Another oh, shit. Yeah. Well, you're supposed to, take them all the way till the end. And that's
normally when I've had antibiotics, I've had strep throat twice this year. When I got antibiotics for that, within the first 3 days, I was feeling better. I finished taking them. You have to finish taking them even if you do feel better. But I was feeling. This is the first time that I've taken antibiotics and not felt something pretty instantaneously. So what I think is in there isn't a bacterial infection, because that would be knocked out by an antibiotic.
Right.
It's not COVID-19. I don't know what it is.
Shit.
That's kind of scary.
Like not knowing, especially when it's like, well, it's not these horrible other things that are affecting so many people. We don't know. Yeah.
And this was just an urgent care. I didn't go to my regular. I just wanted to get in quick. So I didn't go to my regular doctor. I haven't gone to see a lungsologist or whatever the doctor is that looks at your lungs. So, gotcha. I mean, I don't know. It's just and it was just one snapshot. Sometimes you get x-rays. They take a couple different pictures of it. It's just one snapshot. So, I want to finish up these antibiotics. And if I'm not feeling better, I'm going to have to call them and say, hey, we got to figure something else out, because
round 2,
this inhaler that they gave me, it helps, but it's just treating a symptom or something. Like it just helps for about 2 hours. And during those 2 hours, it helps so much. So I just took a couple of puffs of this, so I'm feeling pretty good right now. Doesn't it sound like it? But
still got it.
Oh, man, so I don't know what's going to happen. I'm kind of nervous, but at the same time, there's not much that I can do right now, anyways. I'm trying not to worry too much about it.
Yeah.
It's obviously something that happened while I was traveling. I'm pretty sure it's something that happened while I was either in an airport or on a flight, because I was fine before I left Texas. Everybody that I was with in Texas is relatively healthy. It's not like afterwards I left, everybody was like, "Oh no, I'm not feeling good either." So there has to be, because I was in an airport / airplane for about, I think it was like 13 hours.
That's plenty of time. Even if it was just a direct flight, just being in an enclosed space.
And there was layovers. I ended up going to the airport and was waiting there for 5 or 6 hours. I mean, there was a lot. So I don't think that it's something like lung cancer, because that's the first thing that I think. I always think that I have cancer. I don't think that's the case, because it's something that just kind of came out of nowhere. But I don't know exactly what it is. What if it's like a new COVID virus or something like that they don't know of? You know what I mean? That's not reacting to that COVID-19 test they gave me.
Well, maybe they can run some experiments and you can get medical treatment on for free if you let them write some papers about you.
If they name it after me, I kind of will be okay with that.
It's the one deal. You can study this, but you got to name it after me.
Yeah.
Steven variant.
I want some kind of recognition from it. So, but shit, that's what's happening over here.
Damn.
What's going on with you, Mikey? How's it going?
Not anything like that. Well, I have been having some pretty shit allergies, and you would not believe how annoying and painful this is. Just going through, like, I get the sniffles, and then I get a runny nose when I wake up, and I can't, like, smell anything until I do my little nose spray. Then I'm fine. Look, once I do that, it's immediately fine.
Here's what I recommend is take your phone and dial 911. You don't have to push go yet, just to be ready, because that sounds bad.
Yeah, maybe I have one of the little baby suckers I can go into the ER, but they got like an adult one, and they can just...
Maybe.
have a couple nurses.
Maybe. See if your grandma can do it for you. Just get a straw and suck it up.
Yeah, like you're siphoning gas out of a can.
Yeah,
or something.
exactly.
I probably have enough fluid. So realistically, or being a little more serious, whenever I do lay down, it's, again, nothing that compares to anything you're going through, obviously. Not trying to play that, but it's just, I am dealing with allergies. Just can't smell anything. I can't breathe through my nose. And I think I've talked about it, mentioned it before, where, one of my fears is if I ever am kidnapped or in a hostage situation, they put tape over my mouth.
Because that'll kill you.
I'll just be dead. Just fall over.
It's that bad.
Be gone. I actually can't inhale, I can't exhale, I can't blow my nose or anything. And I've tried all sorts of stuff, and spicy food once in a while will help a little bit. So I've been eating a lot of cayenne peppers and jalapenos and stuff. Like every morning when I get home for dinner, I'll put, a few tablespoons of cayenne pepper into whatever it is I'm making for lunch and dinner. And then I'll get a little bit of relief. But other than that, things are going all right.
Yeah.
And then the mild allergies, we're getting a lot of rain, so my peppers, I've got a beautiful pepper bush out in the back that I'm going to be excited to harvest.
The rain helps with allergies, or at least with the stuff that's flying in the air, or no?
Not with me. So what happens is especially if there's been a lot of pollen or dust or whatever, depends on what's blowing through. But when it rains, it'll catch all that, and then it lands. And then in Texas, with how hot it is, it evaporates, and that'll carry some of the stuff in it. And then I'm just, can't breathe or smell anything. But yeah, I've got to switch. I just flip-flop back between a couple of antihistamines, Allegra and Claritin, and it usually does me good for a few weeks.
Yeah, I feel that. I want to feel better. I feel like crap.
Yeah.
I want to feel better.
Are you taking off work?
This is, no, I work from home. And I have stuff to do that's just, they're like my projects that I have to do. Like,
right.
So I have been working on a little bit of a modified schedule where I'm working more at night because my sleep schedule is all off. So I end up I'll try to take like a nap in the middle of the afternoon. So I work in the morning, answer the emails, take a little nap in the middle of the afternoon if I don't have any meetings. And then I'll end up working from like 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. at night, just catching up on everything else I didn't do in the afternoon. But I don't really have time to not work. Which kind of stinks, but it is what it is, and it's easy work. It's not easy work, but it's not physically demanding work.
There you go. Yeah. It's not going to be so taxing on you that you couldn't get it done, but you can power through it for now. Yeah. Hopefully, just be knocking it out. Going back to normal pretty soon.
I'm trying. I'm powering through, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's what's happening over here, man. It's just I've tried every over-the-counter medicine that I can. I've cycled through Mucinex, Dayquil, NyQuil, Sudafeds, everything that you can imagine, and it's
all the legal stuff.
All the legal stuff.
Well,
I don't think that I've ever been this sick before.
Really?
Not to where it's this drastic for this long amount of time.
Yeah.
I've had points where I've been very sick. Like when I've had strep, I get strep throat a lot. And there have been points where I've had strep throat where I was having like 104-degree fever, went to the ER because I was having almost like hallucinations. Like
That's
I was
super
that
high,
far, I was that far gone. But it was like I get an antibiotic and within 24 hours, I'm almost all the way better.
Yeah, you're feeling it.
So I've never had something where it's just this lingering and the stuff that I'm taking is not help. I mean, it helps with some of the symptoms of it temporarily,
but not the root cause.
Nothing is just fully taking care of it. And it's kind of scary because I thought that I was pretty invincible. You think that you're young and like you can get through things and like it's kind of a wake up call to realize, oh wow, I'm not either I'm not as healthy as I thought. Well, obviously I'm not as healthy as I thought I was because I thought I was healthier to where this wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's because of age or if it's because I'm just fat and out of shape or just because we're all more delicate humans than we like to think we are. I don't know.
Spending a week away from everyone, or a year away from everyone. Just kept your immune system.
Maybe that's
up
what
to
it is.
Current version. Yeah, I mean, so touching on the feeling invincible. That was something I never really got until I was later. What did change is physically getting hurt. I've had some considerable injuries doing things from like skateboarding to dodgeball, hockey, and just some like climbing trees and stuff, just playing around and then just working. And that was one thing that I knew, like every time I would like break a finger or, just like scrape, whole, like when I was skateboarding, I scraped the whole side of my arm and my leg and stuff. And I didn't really, I realized that stuff growing up, like, oh, that kind of stuff hurts. And I've
never been physically hurt before. I've never, because I don't skateboard or anything like that. I've never had a broken bone. I've never really had any kind of injuries like that before.
Never dislocated a finger or like jammed a finger, like had it slammed in a door accidentally?
No, I've had an ingrown toenail.
Twisted an ankle?
No.
Rolled it? Ooh.
Maybe rolled it or something, but it's just like, oh, that hurt, and like,
and then you can walk it off.
The next day, you're fine.
Yeah.
But nothing like that.
See, I think physically I've recognized that growing as I get older, but then opposite of that, like the mental, like I'm invincible, like I can do whatever, I think got stronger as I got older. And I think it was more of like well, whatever, might as well like go do something rather than being scared. So like, and maybe I'm just confusing, like confidence with invincibility. And I think that's kind of one of the things. So like when I was younger, I was petrified to go to Six Flags and go down like the Runaway Mine Train or the parachute ride. I could
really
not go on that parachute ride. As I went with my mom one time, she's like, "This is the most gentle ride here. It's gonna be okay. You get to look at the beautiful skyline." And we started going up, and all they give you is a little bar that they pull up some string. There's a bar, they set it down, and I'm just like, in my mind, I was going to it was gonna turn into a slide. They were gonna like flatten the chair you're sitting in, and you slide out, and you got nothing. You got to like hold on like monkey bars or something. And so I was panicking. I was freaking out.
That's funny because as a kid, I never did that ride because I thought it was for babies. I thought it was so boring and lame. Like I loved roller coasters. As soon as I could get on, my first real roller coaster at Six Flags Over Texas was the Shockwave.
That's a good one.
It's got the little loop-de-loops on it, and you don't have to be that tall to ride that. So that was one of the first ones. Loved that. I've been in love with roller coasters ever since. So I don't. Yeah,
there was a 5-year-old on the chair next to us when we went on that, and I was maybe 12, 11 at the time. But that's changed. I finally went on the Shockwave. That was a goal of mine one year. Like I didn't go to Six Flags for a while because I was like, "What's the point? I don't want to waste money on it." Finally went. I remember I went with some family, and specifically my sister. We broke away from the rest of our family, and we just did a bunch of roller coasters. Didn't do the Titan, didn't do the Texas Giant because the lines were way too long. Didn't do Batman. That was one I wanted to do. Mr. Freeze I won't do. Something about going backwards and then spinning. I can't do spinning. Even the teacup, like that Crazy Mouse at the state fair, teacup rides, I get sick. Like you spin me around 2-3 times, I'm like ready to lay on the floor.
Well,
I think it's my
Batman
allergies.
Does a spin.
So the corkscrew's a little different, but I mean like spinning in place.
Oh.
Like that, yeah, just twirling around.
Okay,
I used to do that when I was young, but as I gotten older, it's just worse and worse. And I think it has something to do with my allergies and like my sense of balance. Like I can balance really well if I'm like looking at a horizon or something. You close my eyes or you spin me around, I'm lost. I get like vertigo and sick and everything. But with going on roller coasters and that sort of stuff, I think I was mixing up a little bit of confidence with invincibility, but yeah, I definitely feel
that's what it is though, right? Because we're not actually invincible. It's a confidence, and it's either a false confidence or a true it's some kind of confidence. So I mean that's what that is. So I think that it would make sense that if your confidence just about life is stronger, then you kind of feel a little bit of that invincibility, that false invincibility, because we're not invincible.
Yeah, and I think some of that is also just like what's the worst that can happen, short of dying or losing parts of your body and whatnot. But okay, what if someone says no? Okay, what if you get like going into like video work and stuff? Got told like no, this or that's a dumb idea or something like that, and you just kind of get used to that over time. Or like whenever I'd be working at a flea market slinging belts on the weekend, just trying to sell belts to people for like $3-4, and how many people were just like, no, or fuck off, kid, or anything like that.
Well, that's the name of the game in a situation like that, is just collecting no's. How many no's can I collect before I get a yes? You know, you have to collect a bunch of no's before you get a yes. And I agree completely. Like, that helps a lot in other parts of your life, is being able to face that rejection and realizing, oh, the world didn't end. Everything is okay. I just go on to the next thing. That helps a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, the world didn't end. That's that. What's that one song? The End of the World. I forget who sings it, but they featured it in Girl Interrupted with Winona Ryder and Angelina Jolie. Did you ever see that? No, this is
The End of the World.
Maybe I'm totally misremembering the title. Not quite that one. Frick, let me see. Forget
what is it called? What did you say?
Let's take a quick look. The End of the World. It's the end. I think it's The End of the World. Yeah, no. The End of the World by Skeeter Davis or Brenda Lee. I think her version is the one that most people know.
The Skeeter Davis hit. What are you talking about? Nobody knows that.
I don't know if that's her name or not. I feel bad because I used to listen to the song because we watched Girl Interrupted back when I was a film major by Brenda Lee. If you ever look it up, it's from the 60s. The End of the World.
It wasn't a light.
And me neither. But the song basically just goes on talking about like how this person, basically the song starts with some questions like, why does the sun go on shining? Why does the sea rush to shore? Like, why is the world continuing to go on about its business whenever you don't love me? Like, this person is heartbroken, but it's like, they're making all these observations about the world's still going on. So like, but why? Like, why is it still going on? You don't love me anymore. Like, my world is supposed to be over, yet things are still, as they were before. You need to listen
to that song. It sounds like a good song.
It's a really
because
nice
that song. Is like, man, whenever I've had it, anytime that you're heartbroken, man, you have those questions, and whether it's being heartbroken over a relationship, or I don't know if you've had anybody close to you die. When you have somebody close to you die, and the rest of the world is going on, you can't comprehend how that's happening. Like, what is like? I always thought it was weird. So, when we were, what grade was that? That would have been in 9th grade. When we were in 9th grade, we had a kid in our school pass away.
Yeah, I remember.
This was a kid that he lived in my neighborhood. He lived down the street from me, and like I had hung out with him like at the community swimming pool and stuff. And we weren't best friends or anything, but like he was the first kind of friend that I had that had ever passed away, and it was like a tragic accident. It was a
freak accident.
He was hit by a car. So he was skateboarding, and this was in our neighborhood. He was skateboarding, and it was dumb of him to do it, but he was skateboarding down this hill blind, going into a major road intersection, and it's like not a major road, but it was one of the main arteries in our neighborhood.
Yeah, where traffic was coming.
Most of the time you could do that and curve around and you'll be fine, but this one time he went down, got hit by the car, and as far as I know, I think he was like killed instantly, and it was out of nowhere. It's not like a kid that had cancer or something that you kind of realize is happening. It just came out of nowhere.
It coming.
Yeah. And I remember that happening, and because I said it was right down the street from me. Me and my brother walked down there to where they had the police had everything closed off or whatever. He had already been taken to a hospital, whatever, but everything was still closed off as they're investigating and doing all that. And very quickly we saw news cameras come down there. And so there's news cameras just, talking about, there's this teenager, this 14-year-old, 15-year-old kid just got, hit by a car. It's tragic and everything like that. So news cameras are there. They're interviewing people or whatever. I go to watch the news that night, and the news starts, and I'm thinking they're going to take the whole newscast to talk about this. Because in my world, that's the only news that matters.
Yeah.
This is earth-shattering stuff. I'm seeing these
that was your
images
world.
that I don't ever want to see again. But I'm seeing these images, when I went down to where it happened, and you're seeing all these people, and you're seeing crying, and you're seeing the family, like all this stuff. So like that's like there could be no bigger story in the world. And they start the broadcast with something about it. It was like a recall on Tylenol or something like that. They spent forever doing that. And then they went to the news story about this kid that had died. It was about a 1.5-minute news story. And then next they went into just whatever all right, let's take a look at weather. Let's do this.
Beat.
I couldn't believe it. I remember sitting there with my jaw on the ground in disbelief that, like, how are they going on? There's so much more to talk about this.
Yeah.
I don't know what they would talk about, but just in that mind as a 14-year-old, that's all that was my whole world is in that. So that was kind of the first time that I ever kind of had that realization of, oh wow, we're all these tiny little peon. Like, it's not the world doesn't stop for the little things that happen in our lives, no matter how big they are in our lives. Mm-hmm. In the grand scheme of things, they're not that big.
It's another day, another story, another news package, another little 90-second news package. Some reporter went out there, filmed it, sent it to him, and that was it. It's put in the archives after that. No follow up.
Yeah, and it and ever since that happened, so that would have been in 2006. So however many years ago that was.
Almost 15 years ago.
15 years ago.
Half of our life ago.
Yeah. So in that time, anytime that I've watched the news, when those little stories come up, I think about that, about how this is a little blip that's on my TV screen, but for the people that are involved in this story, this is their whole world and everything. And I think it's good to keep that in mind.
It's a very powerful tool for picking up empathy.
Yeah.
It's gleaning that rather than having someone teach. You can't really teach empathy. You kind of have to experience something that jarring, I think, to fully appreciate it and have it stick with you, more importantly. Because you learn about empathy, what it is, the definition, examples of it. But if it's not something that you're practicing regularly or that actually like enters your consciousness, I think, you're cognizant of when it's happening, it kind of, I don't want to say it's for nothing, but it's not, it takes a lot to make that effective, however it happens and however you experience empathy. And like you said, it's good to be reminded of those things, but it's hard to have an example that happens that actually puts it into perspective.
Yeah, that's
crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy stuff.
The way I learned about it, and this was just very brief, I'll be very brief about this because I know the two of y'all were, I think, closer. You obviously lived down the road, but for me, like, I was already I was not yet in any sort of social circles. Like, I talked to kids on the bus, and it was someone on the bus from a different grade. I didn't even because we went to a freshman center. It was only our class in that school, a converted high school, which also made, I think, our experience different. Exactly. Yeah. And so it was someone from a different grade that was like, when I got on the bus, I just remember sitting down and the person turned around over the bus seat and was like, "Did you know him?" It's like, "Who are you talking about?" And then I just remember asking more questions. I was just like, "Oh yeah," just kind of like nodding along with it. And they're just like, "Wow, were y'all friends and stuff?" And I was just like, "Oh yeah." And then when they said, their name and whatnot, I was like, "Oh yeah, I didn't know this person. I didn't know anything had happened." And then when I got to school, just remember walking through and like people just kind of like crying in groups and stuff and being very quiet and just that very somber in the hall. You didn't hear as many people talking, as many different noises. You really heard and felt the lockers closing, the steps on the tile, and people not lingering in the hallway, just going straight to class sort of thing. And one thing I remember, my health teacher at the time, who I didn't really like through the whole grade, but one thing I remember he was telling us about is, how unfortunate it is, usually once a year, at some point in the year, something happens to a student, whether they die or not. And, he said, and one thing that I did appreciate the phrasing and stuff, and maybe this is a minor thing, but he's just like, it is always horrible when someone passes, but it's extra crappy when it's someone that everybody really likes and everyone gets along with. And for me, I don't know, I took that weirdly at the time, but the more I thought about it and reflected, I was like, yeah, I kind of, it's just, I think being able to talk realistically about tough situations like that was something that in particular kind of stuck with me with that one interaction. That one, then, this, like you said, I think we talked about in the earlier episode, how just one phrase someone can say and that kind of stick with you, little something like that. But
especially at that point in time of our lives, that's such a formative time in our lives, because we're not adults.
That's when you and I met.
That is when we met that year, absolutely. But we're not children. I guess technically we're children, but we're in that transition from being a child into an adult. We're as Britney Spears said, not a girl, not quite yet a woman. That was us. at that point in time. But so those things like that, I think, kind of stick with us a little bit more because we're, dealing with more of those real situations. I don't know about you, but for me, that was my first real encounter. Well, my dad passed away when I was 10 years old. He had cancer for a few years, and which obviously it sucks. It's a terrible thing to go through, but like at least having kind of the idea that this thing is coming, and you kind of prepare for that death is helpful. But outside of that, this is the first encounter that I had with death, and
freak accident.
Yeah, and it's scary. But it was definitely, I think, transformative in my life. Experiencing that.
Damn. Well, went from talking about feeling invincible to an old song from an old movie to this.
There we go. Speaking of death, maybe, I don't know if you know this. So did you listen to, so I put together the last episode, the previous episode that we did.
Has not come out.
Put together.
Not that I saw on the
You haven't listened
Google
to it yet?
podcast. I have not. I have it set to alert me when it goes live on here. Oh, wait.
It should be on there. You should have got alerted.
It's live now.
I got my alert. I was surprised by how quick. So this is all new for us as a podcast and everything. I was surprised how quick it was for me to hit upload. And within about 6 minutes, I haven't subscribed on a couple of apps just because I wanted to see what it looked like in those apps.
Yeah.
They popped up. I was kind of surprised. I always thought it was.
I was on Google
longer than
Podcasts.
that.
So whenever you sent me that text, I happened to be on taking a break, just having eaten lunch. So I went and peeked, and I wasn't quite there yet. But then I didn't check it up, honestly, from like 1 o'clock till now. So could have gone up any time between then.
Yeah. So
I'll give it a ring, though.
I bring that up. So there's I changed up the intro song for that. Here's what I think for the intro song is it's not a set song. It's kind of just based on whatever's happening in the world or in our lives or just whatever we're kind of feeling, for that. The intro song that I did for that episode was the song that they used for the Russ Martin show, the theme song that they played at the beginning of the show for that. And a couple people know this, but probably most of the people that listen to this don't know who that is or what that is. Russ Martin was a radio talk show host in the Dallas area for many. I mean, he started in the 80s and had been around for a long time. On hopped around in a couple different stations. Hold on, I got a cough.
Yeah, even you see him on billboards and stuff. Just you'd know he had his show in the like you said, Dallas area. Yeah,
and so he kind of became the. A lot of people, kind of called him like the redneck Howard Stern. He was kind of like the shock jock guy, especially into like the early 2000s. He kind of became the shock jock, say things, call women fat bitches, and that kind of
pushing people's buttons.
Yeah, pushing the buttons, absolutely. And he was like the #1 talk show host for many years in the Dallas area. And then he had some issues, kind of trailed off, and was still active, but not as big as he once was. And there's lots of reasons for that. One, just society kind of changes, I think, a little bit, and I don't think that he really kept up with that. Kind of living exactly. It kind of played out,
Yeah, that's a better way to put it.
Yeah, well, and it didn't age well. Just in the you were talking about wanting to bang chicks and bang the new sales chick in the office or whatever. You can't really say that, man. And not that I think that it was cool to say that in the early 2000s, but you could definitely get away with that more in the early 2000s. But there's also, I don't know how much you know about this, but they changed the way that radio ratings were calculated in the mid 2000s, and this affected not just Russ Martin. You can read all kinds of articles and stuff about how this affected a lot of people that were like the big #1 guy in these metropolitan areas and these different radio markets, because it used to be it was all just done by survey, and you would write down a little book what you were listening to.
Yeah,
and so what would happen was you would have this big popular guy, and his Billboards are everywhere. Whenever you're listening at any time of the day on that radio station, they're saying, this is the home of Russ Martin. And you just hear it over and over and over and over, and it just gets in your head. And even if you listen to maybe Russ Martin for, 10, 15 minutes on your way home from work or whatever like that, whenever you're filling out the survey, you just heard Russ Martin all day.
It's what comes
so
to
you're
mind.
writing down, I listened to the whole 4 hours today, and you're writing that down all day, every day. So he came really big, but I don't think that the numbers were truly accurate of the number of people that were listening.
Yeah, absolutely.
So whenever they transitioned to, used to give you a little monitor. I think that's how they still do it, honestly.
For the Nielsen ratings, yeah.
Yeah. So they give you this little monitor, about the size of a pager, and you put it on you, and it picks up what you're listening to. So only if you're truly listening to it are you getting credit for it. And so whenever they introduced that, his ratings really went down. They dipped a lot because I think it was just overly inflated. But anyways, so he was a really big part of me growing up. I listened to him as a teenager, and as being, the raunchy teenager, I love that he would talk about, farting and all that kind of stuff, that I just thought was so funny. And I learned about, sexual stuff on there, all kinds of stuff. It was perfectly made for a teenage boy, that show.
Right.
So I listened to a lot of that as a teenager going through high school and stuff, and just kind of, hooked onto that and still listened. Even when he wasn't quite as popular, I still listened. He had some health issues, and he passed away earlier this year. Well, it finally came out how he passed away. They were kind of secretive about how he passed away. They weren't saying what it was.
Oh.
And it came out this week that he died from chronic alcoholism. And he was only 60 years old. I remember, that was also part of his shtick, was he would drink on the air. That was part of his shtick is, hey, while you're, you get live this, terrible life, and you're on your way home from the office or whatever, you have a shitty job or whatever. My job is I get to sit here and drink and laugh around with my pals. And he would kind of rub that in your face a little bit. And one of the billboards that he had said, I'll drink, you drive, because he would have the, coming home from
I remember that.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was a big part of his shtick was drinking. And even, whenever they had a tribute for him, the day after he died, the tribute was a toast where you were supposed to drink out of your own whiskey bottle, and a lot of what he was known for was that drinking, and that's what ended up
his identity,
killing him. And it's kind of scary. I know that I've talked to you a little bit about my own issues with. I don't think it's as. I guess that's what all alcoholics say. It's not as bad as so-and-so, but I have had issues with alcohol and other substances where it's just I get in this habit of kind of doing that over and over and over. And as someone that is I've considered a role model, and part of what we're doing right here is sitting here and talking in front of a microphone is something that I've wanted to do based on what I listened to from Russ Martin. And sometimes drinking whiskey by itself out of the bottle is something that I heard Russ Martin do, and I was like, that's badass, that's cool, I'm going to do that. And there's a lot of stuff, and to see how that ended for him, for me, it was a little scary.
Start seeing maybe not a reflection, but potential, what is it, the Christmas Carol, where you see, your potential futures up ahead of you, and what road you're going to go down, how it could wind up horribly. And I think, one, being aware of that and just having that conversation like you just did with yourself is, the first check-in, check that box in terms of all right, I'm not going to end up like that. Or hell, if not that I'm saying people go out and drink it, I'm not a big drinker myself. And I've had alcoholism run in my family, and that's one of the reasons I've avoided it off and on. And I had a grandparent who was in and out of rehab, and this was, before I was old enough to remember, but I was told this, and he missed birthdays and holidays and that sort of stuff. And, then he also, my grandfather also then passed away from lung cancer from smoking cigarettes. And, even with me, growing up around my grandparents, who were both smokers, my grandmother's since cut back some, but still, I've grown up, every time I do go into an allergist or a doctor's, they can always, it's one thing they ask, did you grow up around smokers? Do you smoke cigarettes?
They can tell.
and they can just tell because there's just always an issue with that, and that's also like part of my allergies and stuff. They just, it's very apparent that I was around that, and so just having been around that and seeing it and knowing how addictive, and I still would say I have an addictive personality, especially with like video games. It's easy to get into that. Same thing with work. Like I'll get addicted to work. I wouldn't describe myself as a workaholic, but very much sometimes, if I'm working on a project, I'll binge it. I'll binge that project and we'll just go all out. And that's all I'm, zoned in on. And just, again, having those conversations with yourself. So, I think just the fact that you're recognizing, as you've, put it, someone whom was a role model for you. And you're a host on this show, even though we're the ones listening to it. And you did that even, I remember, early on with the Steve show, the original run.
Yeah.
You wanted to do that. You always had that. You even dyed your hair. You did these things that one of our teachers was like, if you do this and whatnot. And I mean, you were willing to, jump the shark if it came down to it, I'd bet. So.
Yeah. It's, yeah, it's crazy. And so another thing that's just kind of crazy about that is, so I made that the intro for our last episode was that Russ Martin show entrance song, because one of the main reasons for me going back to Texas was they finally had like a tribute concert to him where all the people from the show and the state radio station and all his fans, it was kind of the first chance for all of his fans to say goodbye because it happened during COVID. So there weren't any events going on. And it wasn't like you could go to like a memorial service or anything because, again, all that was shut down. So when they announced that tribute concert, I was like, I'm going to be there for that. This guy's, was a big deal in my life. So I was there for that. And, I just thought that it would be my little tribute and whatever I can to do that as kind of a throwaway kind of a thing. And it was right after I had put that on there that I read that. So I didn't know that before that. So
wow,
it's I don't know, man, just to think to die from that. You don't think that that's something that can happen, but it happens every day to many, many, many people.
It's crazy the toll that kind of stuff can take. I mean, any habit that you do, to me, I try to find encouragement when I hear about bad habits that take their toll on someone. Like, even if you see those pictures of like, their first time someone would be arrested and be of a mugshot of someone that they got arrested for this drug.
Yeah.
And it'll, show you like every couple of years, every time they got arrested doing more harder drugs and stuff, the toll it takes. And then like just now I was watching an interview with Terry Crews and he said how he used to get beat up in high school. And he said, nope, I don't ever want to have that happen again. And that's when he started working out and became the fucking machine that, he's known for being. And so to me, like, I try to find encouragement in terms of little changes over time can really add up positively or negatively. So, every day that I do get up and decide to clean this, or every day that I get up and go try something new or eat this food or work out or do something like that, it all, it's never a black or white sort of, this is, you can't, it's not like a video game in like Sims where you go work out once or something like that and instantly you're there. It's kind of like growing your hair. You just, unless you get extensions, I guess, and you don't pay a lot of money for it, but there's, really no shortcuts to, there's no quick fix for things that'll just really take their toll over time in a positive or negative direction. That's what I try to find from those sorts of things. So like, chronic alcoholism is a scary thing and you don't really notice it. I think, it just feels normal. Like whenever I was smoking a lot of weed and it was just kind of like, that was my everyday. That was my routine. It was part of my routine. When it becomes part of my routine, that's when I have to make a point to step away and just literally go do anything else, be it like walking down the road, just reading a book or a magazine, or just literally anything other than that. You got to break the routine and then from there start reflecting on it and, make changes.
Yeah.
And you had a long run of, not having any alcohol from what I remember. Do you know what your final day count was? Like how many days was it? It
was July 3rd until when I landed in Texas, basically. Because I drank the whole time I was in Texas.
Yeah.
So it wasn't quite a month. I guess it was about 3.5 weeks. I think that it was. For me, I think I'm an addict. Just period. Not a specific addict of anything, but just an addict, because for me, if it's not drinking, it's getting high. If it's not one of those things, it's I struggle with binge eating. There's just always something that I can't get enough of, and I abuse it as like all right, it's going to make me feel better. It's going to make me feel good right now. And in the moment that it does. And that's the part that sucks, is in the moment it does. And so it's, I got to get help for that.
The thing I have that the last, like, off and on for like every other day for the last, I don't know how many weeks now, that the habit I'm working towards breaking is not eating while I'm going to sleep. Like, I'll make a bowl of something, or like right now I have some lactose-free ice cream, and I have some almond butter and some jelly, and I'll put a little bit of that, and I'll put a little bit of sriracha on the side, and then I'll put some King of the Hill on, and I'll just lay down, and I'll be eating it while I'm going, getting ready for bed. Once I finish that, I put it on my nightstand, I clean up, the next day. But every day I wake up, I can tell the difference. Like, I know when I wake up, if I'm feeling tired and groggy, it's because I ate something. My body's working to process it. The days that I don't do that, I'm not saying I'm never tired when I do that, but I can noticeably be like, it's a little easier to get out of bed today. And last night I was just like, I got to stop doing this while I was eating it. And even before, like, there's times like when I'm about to put everything into the bowl, I'm like, I know this is going to make me feel like trash in the morning. And I know I'm going to maybe not, I guess, regret it, but I'm just like, it's going to be great going down, but I'm going to probably say I wish I hadn't done it the next day, or just, why didn't I just save it or something like that? And it's sometimes better to
go blind in those moments. I don't have those thoughts when I'm in the moment of it. Those thoughts are gone. I will, when it's drinking, especially, like, it's just like we're partying, we're just having fun, we're just doing it. When it comes to eating, I know, and like I'll write notes to myself in my notes app on my phone when I'm feeling really bad, so that I try to remember what I feel like. Yeah, I'll write those notes about that, and then it'll kind of just be out of my mind, and then in the moment of me wanting food, especially like on Uber Eats or Postmates or whatever, I'll order $35 of Jack in the Box, which from Jack in the Box, that's a lot of fucking food.
I've been there. I know.
And I'm just ordering it, and I'm like, oh, that sounds good. Oh, that sounds good. Oh, that sounds good. I'm just adding it to cart, adding to cart. And I wish I had that thing that would go into my mind to say, hey, do you really you're going to feel like shit tomorrow? Like, I can't, my brain doesn't process that thought until I'm already feeling like shit. And that's the way it is with everything, with drinking, with smoke. Well, not smoking, but for me, like edibles, getting high. Yeah. I think those are the three main things for me. I don't think that there's really anything. Well, I mean, I guess you could take even a couple of months ago, I was walking 10 miles a day. Like, I was obsessed with hitting this 10 miles a day. And like, I was just, I would devote all my time and energy to doing 10 miles a day.
10 miles is a lot.
I think that was its own weird little addiction thing too.
That runners,
there's always something that is for me that I think probably in my mind is looking for that shortcut to happiness and
chasing those endorphins.
Yeah. So I just rest in peace, Russ Martin. But I don't want to end like that, man. I don't. No. And like you said, I do think that it's I'm thankful that I am thinking about those things now and really kind of, swallowing that pill of that's what that fun life that it sounded like he had. Was it that fun? I don't know. Like, I don't know if it was. So I got to find my own happiness somewhere else. And it's not going to be, at the bottom of a Jack Daniels bottle.
No, I think
as fun as he made it sound, he made it sound a lot of fun.
He sold you on it.
Look where it happened. Look where he is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, with all that being said, rest in peace, Russ Martin. Yes. There's a lot of good things, that came from, my
one of the best things I think is the Steve that I got to know today. We wouldn't have, I think, this personality and stuff without
part of
that.
It, yeah.
So,
absolutely.
Absolutely.
It was a big part of my life and my formative years, So absolutely.
It's kind of, like in Scrubs with JD's talking to Dr. Perry, Dr. Cox. He's like, I want to be you, but a better version of you.
Yeah.
You know, I think looking at it that way, take what you can. Same from our own parents. I know you and I both have had some crazy parents, and, you know, just learning, even if what you're learning from a role model is what not to do, I think that's just as important.
Yeah.
So being able to take what you can from that and do something different.
Do you have a role model like that? Because I would say that I have two major role models, and you know who they are. Russ Martin, and then who's the other one? Who do you think is my other role model?
I don't want to say. I don't know.
You know this.
I don't want to be wrong.
David Letterman. Those are my two role models, and I don't know that I've heard you talk about somebody the way that I talk about those people.
I don't know. On the spot, I'd have to think about this. I think maybe if you ask me again, like next week, I'll put some thought into this, because.
But I think that if you have to think about it, it's not the same as like what I have then, huh?
Just jumps to.
Yeah.
Potentially.
It's not something that jumps out like that.
One thing I know with me, and I sometimes can come across very wishy-washy, is I'll play devil's advocate. I'll ping pong points like that with myself, and I overthink it, and then I put a lot of stuff. I just forget and put a lot of things on a back burner, and it's just, you know, if something sparks that memory or that thought process that I had, I'll really go down a rabbit hole. But without that, there's a lot of things that I just don't think about, you know, in that moment. And it's hard for me to recall that without really having some specific things trigger those thoughts. And that's one thing I'm actually worried about, like, as I get older, is if I'm going to have a hard time, you know, with memory. Because I've never really been one to take pictures, never been one to do recordings and stuff. And I do that, you know, having gone through doing someone who did media production and was into journalism and stuff like that, you know, record keeping and whatnot, or keeping a record of something. And I have such a poor memory to just pull memories out of thin air without something really agitating or reminding me of those things. I do worry about that. If that's something that, as I get older, is it only going to get worse? Are there some exercises? Like I do some memory exercise and stuff once in a while.
Yeah. For
the explicit purpose of trying to avoid it. Same way I drink cranberry juice to not get kidney stones. And so, like, on the spot, trying to think of role models, no one
besides
jumps
me
into mind.
What are the ones that come to mind?
Well, there's definitely, I think I will idolize certain aspects about certain people.
Yeah.
And I'll try to hold on to those things, because I know there's no really, like, perfect person out there. But,
well,
you know,
I mean, maybe that's probably healthier than what I've done with these, you know, just grabbing on to just one person. Finds okay, I like what this person does, I like what this person stands for, and kind of creating your own. That's probably healthier, huh?
I mean, I think, well, like we said, you know, learning what not to do is just as important as what's right and what you do like about someone. And sometimes having those bad characteristics in small doses can be a healthy thing, I think, to help really push it. Because if, you know, these are people who achieve things like Russ Martin, obviously David Letterman, both people who have achieved massive things that 99.999% of everyone who's going to exist will never achieve.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I don't think you can have who they became, who they were, without both the good and the bad. That's not to excuse anyone's behavior ever.
Yeah.
But it is, I think there is something worth to, like with actors or talent that are in plays and shows, having that having that certain ego, being full of themselves sort of thing, it's necessary. As annoying and as frustrating and all these other, you know, feelings someone may have about it, sometimes that stuff is necessary. And it's always nice when you do hear about certain actors or actresses or performers or talent or whomever, artists that are able to put out great stuff, but also still be this, you know, someone, I don't want to say paragon, but someone a lot more positive than they are negative in terms of what they put out, and have the
Keanu Reeves kind of, celebrity.
That's part, that sort of stuff. And there's always danger, danger, I think, in over-analyzing, putting anything, anyone, any idea on a pedestal and thinking it's invincible. Kind of coming back to what we were talking about earlier, that these idols are invincible in and of themselves. It's important to not, I think, let that happen, and being realistic and letting yourself know, because everyone from, like, some of the people that come to mind are like Nikola Tesla and people like Elon Musk and these innovators of our times and even more recent that have like popped up in science culture. And I bring those up because I guess those are people whom I've heard, great things about. And then you do a little bit of digging, not even take that, doesn't take that much. You just a little bit, like very little. And they're like, wow, they do some pretty scummy things, some pretty shitty things. And it's just like, and some things that you can't really resonate personally at times. And you want to not like them, but you also separate their success and then recognize, well, what are the teams? What did they really contribute? I think for me, that's where I come back to the whole not making anything or anyone like a black or white success for fail sort of thing. Like, I guess one person I have looked up to somewhat consistently was like Mark Cuban, as polarizing as he can be. There's a lot of great things, obviously some things I don't like about him, but hearing his story, saying the things he does, the way he approaches stuff, I don't like a lot of the shit he said, even on Shark Tank. And this is a very narrow, scope of looking at him. But some of the things on Shark Tank and some of the personal interviews I've heard about him and his success, there's definitely some good and some bad, some things I take away, good or bad.
Wait, is that why you get bad haircuts too?
Oh, you're talking about my hair right now?
No, I'm just kidding. I feel like he's like known for having bad haircuts.
I wouldn't say he has great hair or anything like that, but I didn't know that was or
maybe that's just when I see him. That's what I think of.
That's what you think of, at least. But the first time I ever heard of him was actually on a show that had lasted one season. I'm sure he was the executive producer, put all the money up for it. But there was a reality show filmed all here in Dallas, and it was just he was looking for like an entrepreneur or something out of a group of people. And like one episode that stuck with me for some reason after all these years was, I wish I could remember what the show was called. I'll look it up after this. But one of the episodes was he gave a bunch of money to these two teams that were on the show, and he said, spend a day and let's go do something. I don't even remember the exact goal, but let's do, I'm going to give you some money and let's make the most of this money sort of approach. Maybe there was a specific goal, and I'm oversimplifying it. But one group was like something very business, very much like this is what, Mark Cuban executive we're going to go do. And then the other group was like, we're going to go to fucking Dave & Buster's and blow all this money and have a great time. He's like, that's exactly what I needed. He just leaned in that, it's something that even, I forget how young I was, but like caught me off guard.
Benefactor?
That sounds like it could have been it. Was it one season? Because I never remember seeing, there was like a show that was like on like CW or something like that. There was 6
episodes.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, there's a total of 6 episodes.
Yeah, it was, I remember being like, oh yeah, I couldn't imagine what they were going to do after that.
Yeah.
But, things like coming back, with the role models and stuff, there's things about certain people I'll take on. The Sharks, I think, are a great example. I do like people who are entrepreneurial. I like people who are journalists. I like people who have, strong integrity, and people whom, when they're able to go into an interview, and I think this is part of what I like about some entrepreneurs, is whether or not they themselves are humble, but when they can talk about their failures and how they pushed through that, what it meant to them, how it affected them. And it's, sometimes they just have a lot of money. They come from a family with a lot of money. And so it's just like, all right, well, I just take another loan out from my parents and whatnot. It's like, okay. But then when you hear about someone who's like, their mom, they lived with a single mom, and their mom
was, what's Cuban's story? Did he come from money?
I think he came from some. I mean, he went to some pretty good schools and stuff. And
because he became big with like the .com boom or something. Didn't he have like a big website or something that
was streaming sports?
Okay.
Streaming. I forget what the exact website was, but streaming sports and radio, and that was his passion, was basketball statistics. He had an MBA. And so he made something they sold to Yahoo, and then they purchased it, and then he got a ton of money. Then he just started investing in other tech companies and stuff, and that's where he made something. He's very forward. He can actually code, program, and do all that sort of stuff. So that was one thing I did like about him, was he wasn't just an idea person. He was someone who could do it.
Yeah,
and I appreciated that about his story. But yeah, there's putting anyone up on a pedestal, good or bad. Hell, I mean, even like looking at some of the worst people in the world, there's the cliche examples like, well, just looking at some of like certain dictators and stuff, and what were some of the things that I guess looking at as a way of how did they win people over? Like we see them as so awful. Like what did they do to win people over? And then learning stuff from that. Like one image that really struck with me was like learning, and I'm going off on a tangent, so feel free to reel us back in whenever. It's like with World War II and Mussolini, like one thing that he did was he made the trains run on time in Italy. And then, just years later, not even 10 years later, there are images of him and his wife being dragged through the streets of Italy, being dethroned essentially, and like he was just some, like, people were spitting on him, kicking his corpse and stuff while he was being dragged through the plaza. And just to see the juxtaposition of that, the successes, and also just how horrible and that sort of stuff. But how did they win people over? How did they succeed? And that's where I think, again, that's where I come back to, don't putting anyone good or bad or whatever on a pedestal in terms of black or white. But
wait, so is Mussolini one of your role models?
No. I'm using it as an extreme example. Okay. I guess if you wanted a role model to that point, well, see, not even then. I was going to say Aristotle, but I don't know anything much about him other than his approach to, like, I remember out of, taking philosophy and stuff, the approach I take to things when I try to make up my mind about how I feel about something is identify the extremes of a topic or something and then find that Goldilocks middle. And that was, part of his approach. Whereas if you
I feel like you struggle to find the middle, though, Mikey. I feel like you take too long ping-ponging. Sometimes you just have to, like...
I do. I can't. That's thing. I'm indecisive. I'm wishy-washy. There are some things where I will just, like, I can, do this, do that. But there's just... I don't ever like feeling totally tied to an idea that is... I don't like being inflexible. I like being able to change my mind, be molded by the people and ideas I'm around, and not be... like nailed down to one idea. I do like consistency in my life. I do like having a routine. I like being able to have, some structure, things that are familiar and whatnot. Like,
did you turn yourself down?
A little bit, yeah. Sorry. There's some noises and stuff.
Okay, hold on.
Okay, hold on. How about now? Am I better? Okay now?
I think that's okay.
That's where it was. So.
Yeah.
I'm also leaning in and out, so I'm just.
What is that? Grandma in the background?
Noise. Yeah, she's walking around pacing around the house on the phone with someone.
Okay.
But anyways, one
you're on your way out of there, though, aren't you? Living with Grandma, right?
Yes, finally.
Yeah.
10 years of living on my own. I owned a house, okay, and then I moved back in. But anyways, one of the long points, like one thing that I've had that was consistent, is like, and then we've talked about this, like I do like being able to put work into something and seeing the long-term growth with the gardens, gardening, especially cooking, even putting, cooking something that takes, 2-3 days to prep and whatnot, and you're getting all this stuff, even if it's just planing it out, putting, getting groceries together, something like that seeing the progress over time, or having something consistent and routine, like with my dog, with Shepherd, who I've been peeking at, I see him poking out. Yeah. Like, I know him. We have our little rituals. Whenever we walk back in, we have, we say hello, we greet each other a certain way. Whenever we're out on a walk, we have this checks and balances, how we communicate and all this sort of stuff. Those sorts of things, I like being fixed in those sorts. I like those routines and being able to rely and depend on those interactions being away. There he is poking out, looking a little bit.
He heard his name.
Yeah. So I like that sort of being, that kind of consistency, or being, fixed to something like that. But when it comes to, I guess, the way I look at things, or the way I view things, or the way I feel about something, I like that being open. I don't ever want to feel like I'm cemented to an idea because I feel so critical about people. When I hear someone, if I'm talking to someone and I feel going into that conversation where no one's changing minds, we're just going to be talking at each other, I feel it's such a waste of time, and I hate that. I want to have someone whom I disagree with be able to at least have me contemplate and reflect on my own ideas. And that's something like we've talked about. You and I get, you can introduce me to an idea, even if we agree a lot about a lot of stuff. There are things where just phrasing something different or something like that. But I have a lot of good friends whom one of the things that make them one of my great friends is that even if we don't agree on a lot of topics, be it ethics or morals or politics or whatever it might be, they're able to talk to me about it in a way that's like, well, okay, I'm open, and I can me being able to appreciate their opinion because they have this reasoning and this sorts of things, but I can also tell they themselves aren't like nailed down to it. They're willing to hear other points and change, because it's a two-way thing. If someone's fixed in that and that's all you hear, I just start discrediting them and myself in my own mind, because I'm just like, there's something they're not talking about right now that's causing them to be cemented in their ways.
Yeah.
And if they can't even talk to that, make that point, or I can't figure out what that is, it's hard to have that empathy with the points that they're making for that specific opinion we're talking about. And so when I feel, because I recognize that when I feel that way about someone, I don't want someone to risk someone feeling that way about me. So I like being able to be flexible. Even if I keep coming back to a certain center, maybe I've shifted a little bit, or I'm able to understand exceptions, or I'm able to or appreciate, again, it's coming back to appreciating someone's opinion rather than just hearing it or something like that. So I think that's why I tend to be probably come across as pretty wishy-washy, and come across, and that's something therapists have told me, is like, someone like you tends to be very black or white about things, because that's how, sometimes people with some of the tics and stuff that I have need to view the world, but they're so like, you're very much in that gray area and you're too much in it. And sometimes you get lost in it.
I'm on the other side. I try to see everything as black and white. And like my therapist have said the opposite. They said, Stephen, not everything is yes or no, 1 or 0. Like there is more, and I struggle to find that gray area. I think I guess that's why me and you work so well together.
Probably
we come. That's why we're damn good friends. That's the name. I just realized that's the first time we're saying the name of the podcast.
We didn't need it today. Yeah.
So that means we're gonna start over and start from here. So everything we just said for the last hour, we're gonna
delete the last hour.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and hit the delete. No, we're not gonna do that. But we gotta get out of here. We had our 1 hour mark. I didn't even get to talk about. I wanted to talk about what's
current
happening
in the news.
Yeah,
it's pretty
about
insane.
What's going on in Afghanistan. I did a little bit of research before we came on about the last hour. Tried to dig in a little bit, because all I've seen were headlines, and I was like, what is going on? I feel like it's 2002, seeing the Taliban in Afghanistan in the headlines. I was like, what's going on?
One thing that I'm seeing with this, I'm really interested in personally, I want to start looking more, is because I'm seeing criticisms across the political spectrum, coming from an American point of view, like people criticizing Democrats, Republicans, and the way things have been held. Obviously, we had, trillions of dollars dumped into a really long war and all this other stuff, and occupation and all these things. And people on literally, actually, and I don't mean this like ironically or as a joke, but like people on all sides were just shitty about it and wrong in many ways. And I'm just interested now to say, like, well, what is the fallout of this going to be? Yeah. How are people who were fixed in certain views about whether we should or shouldn't be there, what we should or shouldn't be doing, how are they responding to this? And if I wish I could, if I could have a way to see what they felt, what their opinions was, back then.
This is a perfect example of all the answers are somewhere in the gray. It's not in the white or the black. It's not left or right. It's not Democrat, Republican. All the answers are in the gray. And it's, I don't have the answers. I don't have a full understanding of everything. Maybe we'll talk about that next week, because I am very
more details
interested in this. I wish this would be a perfect example. I wish there was somebody we could bring on as a correspondent to explain it and dumb it down for us.
Reach out to a CNN person that's just out on the field.
Yeah, I'll see what I can
borrow an hour.
I'll see what I can scrounge up.
Maybe see if your connections at Derek Comedy can pull some strings for us.
We'll see if what's his name? Who's the guy that got famous? I can't think of his name now. I'm just drawing a blank.
He's got two names. Two names he's known by, depending on the stage he's
Childish
playing on.
Gambino, but what's his name? What's his name? His real name?
Begins with a D.
Derek.
Not one of the other ones.
Daquan.
No. Okay, Russ Martin. Let's pull it back.
That's a good time to end, isn't it? Hold on, I know his name. Dylan.
Mm-hmm.
That's close though, right?
I mean, begins with a D. Think lower when you say it's a lower octave in terms of
Dylan.
I used the totally wrong words. Different lower vowel sound.
Donald Glover.
There you go.
Thank you. That helped. Anyway, so we'll see. We'll see what we can figure out for next week. Provided there's a show by then. If I'm still alive by then, hopefully we can still do this. If I'm still alive and if I have a voice,
we can get you one of those Stephen Hawking laptops. You can just type all your responses on.
Hey,
if you're on a ventilator or something. Not to make fun of people who are on a ventilator.
Okay, Russ Martin.
Just saying. I'm just saying.
All right, let's get out of here.
Yeah, I gotta eat more mac and cheese before I go to bed. So if I eat it when I'm outside the bed, it doesn't count.
That's true. That's true. All right, then I will talk to you later. Love you, buddy.
All right. Love you too. Take care.
Bye.
All right. Bye.